32 years ago, a film detonated on American screens like a live grenade. No warning, no apology, just raw, gut-punching truth. Menace II Society did not just show you the streets of Watts. It made you smell the gun smoke and feel the asphalt under your feet. Today, we are going inside 28 secrets buried for decades that will completely change how you see this film. And one jaw-dropping bonus at the end that almost nobody in the industry talks about. So speed up with me because the list starts now. Number 1. The directors were only 20 years old. Here's a fact that still doesn't feel real, no matter how many times you hear it. When Allen and Albert Hughes wrapped Menace II Society, they had not yet turned 21. They couldn't legally order a drink at a bar, but they were already delivering one of the most viscerally powerful directorial debuts in American cinema history. The Hughes brothers had sharpened their craft directing over 30 music videos for artists including Tupac Shakur and Tone Loc. But a music video is 3 minutes. Menace II Society was a full-length feature filmed in one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in the country, with real gang members around every corner and a studio breathing down their necks. And they pulled it off, making something that Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel both put on their 10 best films of 1993 lists. At 20 years old, ask yourself, what were you doing at 20? Number 2. Spice One was the original Caine. Before Tyron Turner ever set foot on that Watts set, the lead role of Caine Lawson belonged to someone entirely different. West Coast rapper Spice One, known for street-level storytelling on tracks like Welcome to the Ghetto, was the Hughes brothers' original choice for the starring role. The connection made sense. The brothers had directed several of Spice One's music videos and already had a working relationship with him. But communication errors between Spice One and his management created problems early on, and he was let go. That opened the door for Tyron Turner to step in and deliver one of the most haunting, emotionally layered performances of the 90s. The performance critics said should have launched him into superstardom. Imagine the film with an entirely different Caine. The chemistry, the energy, the entire arc, all of it different. Sometimes the wrong things have to fall apart so the right things can fall into place. If you are enjoying this, take 2 seconds and leave a like. Subscribe if you want more videos like this. That support really motivates my work and helps a lot with bringing more content. Number 3. Eazy-E was considered for O-Dog. The casting secrets run even deeper than most people know. In 2023, Allen Hughes dropped a bombshell. NWA. Legend Eazy-E was at one point seriously considered for the role of O-Dog, the same O-Dog that Lawrence Tate turned into one of the most terrifying characters in 90s cinema. According to Hughes, it never progressed because he found Eazy-E to be controlling on set. So the role that could have belonged to one of the architects of gangster rap went instead to a young actor from the south side of Chicago, making his feature film debut. And what a debut it was. Number 4. MC Ren turned down a wax for religion. Before MC8 became the menacing AWACS, that role belonged to MC Ren, the notoriously underrated lyricist from NWA. Ren was locked in to play the part, but in late 1992, he converted to the Nation of Islam and turned it down. His new faith led him away from a project centered on the very street violence he had once rapped about. That created the opening for Compton rapper MC8 to step in. And here's something fascinating. According to reports, he ad-libbed most of his lines, pulling from authentic lived experience to make AWACS feel completely real. The studio had actually mandated that a platinum rapper be cast in the film. So MC8's arrival was not accidental. It was a requirement embedded in the deal with New Line Cinema. Number 5. Tupac was fired, then attacked the director. This is the story everyone has heard pieces of, but the full picture is even more dramatic than the legend. When New Line Cinema agreed to finance the film, there was a condition attached. A prominent rapper had to be cast. The Hughes brothers had previously directed Tupac Shakur's music video for Brenda's Got a Baby and knew him from the music video world. They cast him in the role of Sharif, Caine's Muslim friend, described in the script as an ex-knucklehead turned Muslim. And this is where the tension began. Tupac did not want to play Sharif. While every other rapper in the cast was playing roles closer to their personas, Tupac was being asked to portray a stoic, pious Muslim. He had serious objections, not just about prestige, but about authenticity. He could not understand why a kid from the inner city would turn Muslim without a backstory explaining it. He asked the brothers to write that in. They refused. He began arriving late, resisted table reads, and the friction became impossible to manage. The Hughes brothers fired him. Tupac did not take it quietly. 6 months after his dismissal, when the brothers were shooting a music video for Spice One's track from the Menace soundtrack, Tupac showed up with a large group. What followed was a brutal physical altercation. Tupac was charged with assault and battery, but what sealed his fate in court was that he had gone on Yo MTV Raps and bragged about the fight on camera. That tape was played as evidence at his trial. He was sentenced to 15 days in jail. Number 6. Real gang members worked as extras. When production moved to the streets of Watts, the Hughes brothers made a decision that was either brilliantly bold or recklessly dangerous, possibly both. Residents of the Jordan Downs housing project, a predominantly Crip-affiliated area, were hired as background actors. And to manage security while filming in that deeply territorial neighborhood, the production coordinated directly with members of the Grape Street Watts Crips. This was not a Hollywood set with manufactured tension. Real gang members moved through scenes, providing authenticity no casting director could manufacture. If you look closely at the outdoor scenes, you will spot people wearing blue and purple bandanas, not as costumes, but the actual colors of the streets they lived on. You cannot fake Watts. You either go there or you do not go at all. Number 7. The film nearly got an NC-17 rating. When Menace II Society was initially assembled, the MPAA hit it with the worst possible rating for a mainstream commercial release, NC-17. That would have killed the film's chances at wide release and strangled any advertising. The Hughes brothers had to go back and re-edit scenes of graphic gun violence to bring it down to an R. Those cuts were significant, the kind of surgical removal that changes the texture of a film even when it preserves the story. And here's the part that still does not sit right with fans. A full prison riot sequence, Abwaim, was cut entirely, not trimmed, gone. Even the director's cut DVD and Blu-ray, which restored other content cut for the same rating reasons, does not include the prison riot scene. According to the Hughes brothers themselves, that footage remains off the table. There are scenes from Menace II Society that no one, not even dedicated fans who own the director's cut, has ever seen. Number 8. It beat Schindler's List at the MTV Movie Awards. The year was 1994. The MTV Movie Awards presented its award for Best Movie. The nominees included The Fugitive, Philadelphia, Jurassic Park, and Schindler's List, Steven Spielberg's Holocaust masterpiece, that would go on to win the Academy Award for Best Picture that same year. Menace II Society won. A gritty, low-budget film from two young black directors beat some of the most celebrated films of the decade at a nationally televised awards show. It was a moment of recognition from an audience that understood something the more formal awards bodies were slower to acknowledge. Before we keep going, subscribe if you haven't yet. Drop a comment telling me which movie or show you want me to cover next with strange behind-the-scenes facts. I read every single one. Number 9. Rival gang members shot up the set. Sometimes going to the real streets has real consequences. During principal photography at Jordan Downs, members of the Hacienda Village Bloods showed up and opened fire on the set. Production was immediately shut down for 2 full days. The neighborhood rivalry the movie was exploring had literally invaded the production itself. No fatalities were reported, but the incident was a stark reminder that the world being depicted was not fiction for the people who lived it. The cast and crew were not just making a movie about danger, they were inside it. When the cameras went back up, everyone on that set knew they were operating in a real war zone. Number 10. This was Jada Pinkett's theatrical debut. Before Jada Pinkett Smith was one of Hollywood's most recognizable names, before Set It Off, before Ali, before The Matrix, there was Ronnie, Menace II Society was Jada Pinkett's theatrical motion picture debut. She had done television work before, but this was her first appearance on the big screen. She delivered a performance of devastating warmth and quiet desperation. A woman trying to pull someone she loved out of a world that was consuming him. The film gave the world Jada Pinkett as a movie actress. The world has has never forgotten it. Number 11. It was Larenz Tate's debut too. The same is true for the young man who played the film's most electrifying character, O-Dog. The terrifying, impulsive, casually violent best friend who drives so much of the film carnage was Larenz Tate's feature film debut. Tate came from the south side of Chicago, and he brought something to O-Dog that no amount of directing could manufacture. A coiled, unpredictable energy that made every scene feel like a wire about to snap. Critics called his performance star-making. One reviewer described him as a powerhouse who practically vibrated with menace. And yet, this was his very first film. Number 12. Samuel L. Jackson played Caine's father before Nick Fury, before Pulp Fiction, which would also release in 1993. Samuel L. Jackson appeared in Menace II Society in a brief but searing flashback role as Caine's father, Tat Lawson. In the scene, the young Caine watches his father shoot and kill a man during a card game over something petty. It is the original sin of the film, the moment that sets every domino falling. Jackson delivers it with a chilling casualness that burns itself into your memory. It was a small role for a man on the verge of becoming one of cinema's biggest stars, but he brought his full intensity. And that intensity is why the flashback haunts the film long after the credits roll. Number 13. It premiered at the Cannes Film Festival. Before Menace II Society hit American theaters, it made its world premiere at the prestigious Cannes Film Festival, specifically in the Director's Fortnight section, dedicated to bold and innovative first and second features. A film about drug dealing, gang violence, and death in the housing projects of Watts, made on a budget of $3.5 million, directed by two black 20-year-olds, was celebrated at Cannes, the most famous film festival in the world. The Hughes Brothers walked that red carpet before most people in America even knew their names. This was not a coincidence. This was a quick reminder to subscribe if you are enjoying these revelations. And tell me in the comments, do you know any strange fact about this movie that I did not mention? Let us build the list together. Number 14, the Watts riot footage is real archival material. The film opens not with fiction, but with history. The pixelated, grainy footage of the 1965 Watts riots that begins Menace II Society is real archival material sourced from the Sherman Grinberg film libraries and credited in the film end titles. It establishes that the violence being depicted is not new, not invented, and not isolated. The continuation of something that began decades before Caine was born. The pixelation was a conscious artistic choice, creating tension and confusion that mirrors the chaos of that moment. You are not watching a clean historical document. You are watching a wound that never properly healed. Number 15. The budget was $5 million. It made $0 million. Consider the financial reality of what the Hughes brothers pulled off. New Line Cinema gave them $3.5 million. By one account, the film may have actually been completed for as little as $2.5 million. Against that tiny investment, the film grossed approximately $30 million worldwide, with over $27 million coming from the United States and Canada alone. It opened on Memorial Day weekend 1993 in 464 theaters, taking in $3.8 million in its opening weekend. A return of nearly 10 times the investment from two 20-year-olds who made a film the studio almost could not release because it was too violent. Number 16, real violence occurred after its release. The impact of Menace II Society was not limited to the screen. After the theatrical release, incidents of real-world violence were directly linked to the film. Hollywood Reporter documented multiple incidents in late 1993 and early 1994. Most disturbingly, a young man in Albuquerque, New Mexico, imitated the convenience store robbery from the film opening sequence, replicating it directly from the movie. The filmmakers had set out to make an anti-violence film, pairing brutal imagery with a Marvin Gaye classic to create moral weight around the carnage. But the very authenticity that made the film powerful also made it dangerous in the wrong hands. Number 17. The studio forced Tupac's casting. Here is the layer most people miss. According to MC8, the Hughes brothers did not actually want Tupac in the film at all. They knew his work ethic from the music video world and had serious doubts. But New Line Cinema made it a condition of financing. Get a recognizable rapper with star power attached. So the brothers cast Tupac in the smallest role they could find. Sharif, the reformed Muslim, banking on his dissatisfaction giving them an easy exit later. It played out exactly as anyone paying attention might have predicted. Tupac was frustrated, conflict escalated, and eventually he was gone, almost at the end, and the best is still coming. Subscribe so you do not miss what is next, and drop your city or country in the comments. I want to see how far this video is reaching. Number 18. A scene was cut. The actor was too gangster. Among the scenes that did not make the final cut, one stands out for an almost absurd reason. A scene was removed because the actor in it was, in the words of the production, too gangster and had no narrative connection to the rest of the story. No names given, no description of what the scene contained. Just the extraordinary situation of a film about gang life having to cut someone for being too authentically embedded in that life. It raises a question the film itself constantly grapples with. Where is the line between authentic portrayal and exploitation? Number 19. Twin girls with a violent storyline were cut. The original screenplay included 2 female characters, twin girls, who would have been part of Caine's circle. Their role would have involved robbery, and their inclusion would have expanded several scenes. But they were written out entirely before filming began. Menace II Society is, for almost its entire runtime, a story told from and about the male experience in South Central. These twin girls, had they remained, might have shifted the film gender lens in ways that would have made it even more layered. Number 20. The film crew appears in the liquor store mirror. Here is one for the sharpest-eyed viewers. During the opening liquor store scene, that explosive sequence that opens the film like a thunderclap, a camera error made it into the finished cut. When O-Dog takes the Korean store owner wife hostage, there is a ceiling mirror visible in the shot, and if you look carefully, you can see the film crew reflected in it. People operating cameras, standing in a space that is supposed to be empty. Pause the film. Look at that mirror. The fiction becomes reality, and the reality becomes fiction, all in one glance. Number 21. MC Eiht ad-libbed most of his lines. The menacing, unforgettable presence of AWACS was not entirely the product of a written script. MC Eiht improvised the majority of his dialogue, drawing from his real experiences and the authentic language of the streets he came from. The Hughes Brothers gave a rapper with no formal acting training the freedom to speak entirely in his own voice, and what emerged was one of the film's most believable performances. The authenticity of AWACS is, in a very literal sense, the authenticity of MC Eiht himself. Number 22. A scene was dubbed because of aircraft noise. In the scene where Chauncey receives information about a car to steal, featuring Clifton Powell, the dialogue was completely unusable when filmed because of overhead aircraft noise. The area sat directly under flight traffic, and the sound was contaminated beyond rescue. Both actors had to return and re-record all their dialogue in post-production. What sounds natural and effortless in the finished film was actually a technical reconstruction, pieced together in a studio after the fact. Number 23. The script was co-written with Tiger Williams. The screenplay for Menace II Society was not solely the work of the Hughes brothers. They wrote it with their close friend Tiger Williams, a collaboration that gave the script its specific emotional texture and authenticity. Williams brought personal insight that grounded the story beyond the purely cinematic. The dialogue has a quality critics repeatedly flagged. It sounds like conversations that actually happened. The slang, the cadence, the rhythms of how people actually talked in South Central in the early 90s that came from people who had lived inside those rhythms. Number 24. The screenplay had a different title. When the Hughes brothers and Tiger Williams first developed the screenplay, the film had a different title entirely. It was only during the course of bringing it to production that it became Menace II Society, a title that functions on multiple levels simultaneously, implicating both the characters within it and the systems that shaped them. The final title captures the film central tension. Who exactly is the menace? Is it Caine? Is it O-Dog? Or is it the society that created them, failed them, and then condemned them? Number 25. The soundtrack hit number 1 on the R&B charts, the musical identity of Menace II Society was as carefully constructed as its visual one. The soundtrack, released by Jive Records on the same day as the film, featured some of the most important voices in West Coast hip-hop MC8, Spice One, Too Short, DJ Quick, and others. It peaked at number 11 on the Billboard 200 and hit number 1 on the top R&B hip-hop albums chart, sitting there for 6 consecutive weeks. This was not just a film that resonated visually. It resonated sonically, culturally, in every direction simultaneously. The soundtrack was its own cultural event. Number 26. The Criterion Collection released the director's cut in 1994. In January 1994, just months after the theatrical release, the Criterion Collection put out the director cut of Menace II Society on Laserdisc. Criterion, dedicated to preserving important films in definitive editions, recognized the Hughes Brothers' debut as worthy of that treatment almost immediately. This was one of Criterion's first major releases of a contemporary African-American film in a definitive format. The move signaled that the Hughes Brothers were being taken seriously by the gatekeepers of cinema. In 2021, Criterion announced the film would be part of its first ever 4K Ultra HD release slate. Number 27. Entertainment Weekly, one of the 50 greatest indie films in 1997 special supplement, Entertainment Weekly named Menace II Society one of the 50 greatest independent films ever made. 4 years after release, critics and historians were still placing it among the most important independently produced works in American film history. Not one of the best hood films, not one of the best black films, one of the 50 best independent films, full stop. The Hughes brothers were 20 years old when they made it. By 1997, it was already considered a classic. Bonus. Allen Hughes said Tupac would have broken the film we end, where so much of the mythology of this film began, with the ghost of Tupac Shakur, who never appeared in a single frame of the finished film but whose presence haunts every conversation about it. After Tupac's death in September 1996, Allen Hughes gave an interview to MTV News that crystallized the complicated legacy of the whole saga. He said that if Tupac had been in the movie, he would have outshined everyone, that it would have thrown the whole axis of the film off because Tupac was simply bigger than the movie. Let that statement breathe. The director who fired Tupac, who pressed charges after being assaulted by him, who endured years of fallout, is saying that Tupac would have been so electrifying, so magnetically dominant, that he would have unbalanced the entire film. That the movie we got, the one on Roger Ebert Best of the Year list, the one that beat Schindler list at the MTV Movie Awards, the one Criterion canonized, might have actually been worse with Tupac in it. Not because Tupac was not talented, because he was too talented, too big, too much. A conflict that began in ego, escalated into violence, and ended in a courtroom may have inadvertently saved the artistic integrity of one of the greatest American films of the 90s. History has a sense of irony that no screenwriter would dare put on paper. And those were 28 strange facts about Menace II Society. This film was made for $3.5 million by two men barely old enough to vote. They filmed in a neighborhood where the crew was literally shot at. They lost a superstar, fought the ratings board, and still delivered something that Cannes celebrated. Criterion preserved, and millions of people have never forgotten. 32 years later, we are still talking about it. That is legacy. If you made it this far, leave a like, subscribe, and comment which fact surprised you the most. And do not forget to suggest another movie that deserves a list of strange facts. See you in the next video.